Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Stoic Lokian and hail to you. If you are familiar with my channel, you will have noticed that in the past I started doing some readings of the Havamal. I got 4 videos in, sort of reading stanzas 61 to 80, when I then began to ask myself, well, what do these stanzas actually mean? And more importantly, how can we relate them to modern day life? So I stopped doing the simple readings of, realising that if you want to read the Havamal, you can pick up really cheap copies of it on Amazon. There's a brilliant one actually that I use for these videos called the Pocket Havamal. You'll have to forgive me, I can't remember the name of the author offhand, or the translator. However, it is very good. You can literally keep it in your pocket, carry it around with you, and relate back to the words of the High One as and when you see fit. And they do relate to many situations, particularly in modern day life. I'm not just a heathen or a Lokian, I'm also a Stoic, which on the face of it there are contradictions in that, especially being a Lokian and being a Stoic. You know, Loki, if you believe the Eddas and the sagas, is an agent of chaos. He's one of mischief. However, Lokians will all be able to tell you that there's so much more to Loki than just chaos and mischief. So that was when I started asking myself, well, how does being a Lokian tie into being a Stoic? So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to reread the Havamal, or Havamal, however you want to pronounce it, and I'm going to do a bit of research on each stanza, and I'm going to do a video on each stanza as opposed to doing 10 or even 20 at a time. It just made much more sense to me. So again, thank you for joining me. I'm currently out on a field with my dogs, just enjoying nature. So if at any point you hear dogs barking, or there's the main road just over the other side, so if you hear traffic, you know why. But I thought this is a lot better than just being sat in a room reading from a book and translating it back to you. So with your permission, with your blessing, I'd like to begin, and I'll start chronologically, so starting with stanza 1. Stanza 1 writes, all doorways before going forward should be looked to, for difficult it is to know where foes may sit within a dwelling. Now, for me, in the context of Old Norse wisdom, this stanza from the Havamal, these words of Odin, it emphasises the importance of vigilance and preparation, not just vigilance. You know, you'll know the old common saying, failing to prepare is preparing to fail, and this is a very similar vein to that. So in a time when Norse people faced constant threats from rival clans, stanza 1 would have encouraged individuals to approach new situations with caution. The reference to doorways, for example, is both literal is both literal and metaphorical. It signifies the entrance not only to physical spaces, but also extends to the opportunities and challenges that we encounter in life. And the Old Norse certainly would have been living with the aspect of believing that foes could be lurking anywhere, even in seemingly safe environments. So it sort of echoes the unpredictable nature of the world that they lived in at the time. So what does that mean from a Stoic perspective? Well, from a Stoic perspective, I'd say this stanza aligns with the Stoic principles of controlling our perceptions and actions. The advice to look before going forward, for example, corresponds to the Stoic idea of assessing situations before reacting. Stoics believed that it's crucial to avoid hasty judgments and impulsive reactions. It's something that I try to live my life by on a day-to-day basis. So instead, one should take a moment to assess any given situation, take a moment to understand it rationally and respond wisely. The foes, in inverted commas, commas, in this context could be interpreted not only as physical threats, but also as emotional triggers or negative influences that might hinder our progress. And it brings to mind something that Seneca wrote. So Seneca being one of the original Stoic masters, if you will. And Seneca said, "The wise man looks after his own soul as a shepherd tends his sheep. He drives away pests and wolves and protects it from all harm." So just as the Havamal is advising here to be cautious about potential foes in a dwelling, Seneca's quote is emphasising the importance of protecting our inner tranquility and our well-being from harmful influences and negative emotions, if you will. Both perspectives underscore the value of mindfulness and preparation in navigating life's challenges. In the modern world, though, this stanza holds timeless wisdom. In a society often characterised by haste and distraction, I coin it in my work life, for example, when I'm talking to car dealerships. I coin it as we're in this TikTok generation where people expect instant satisfaction and they're constantly distracted. I mean, I'm doing this video now from my phone, and the amount of people that spend all that time on their phone distracted from modern life is becoming an ever increasing number. And so from an Old Norse and Stoic perspective, the stanza 1 encourages us to be vigilant, thoughtful, and prudent in our approach to life's challenges. In an era of technology and urban living, the stanza reminds us to be cautious, even in familiar settings, to check our surroundings before entering a space. All of this can contribute to personal safety. But also, if you think about a sort of a decision-making perspective from a Stoic standpoint, stanza 1 can be applied metaphorically to our decision-making. Before rushing into a choice, it's wise to gather information, for example, consider the consequences, and approach with careful consideration. As a Stoic, there's something that Ryan Holiday, who runs the YouTube channel Daily Stoic, he made a comment about the difference between right and wrong and actions and consequences, and I'm a firm believer in that. Right and wrong is a human-made concept, regardless of which way you look at it, whereas actions and consequences is a very real, very tangible thing, and it's something that you can absolutely grasp and realise, well, if I do that action, this will be the consequence, or this may be the consequence. So it's really, really important to remember that. Stanza 1, though, also comes from, I'd say, a mindfulness perspective. It underscores the importance of mindfulness. By pausing and assessing our mental and emotional states before reacting, we can avoid unnecessary conflicts and stress. And it also leads into, again, from a modern perspective, this idea of digital vigilance. In the digital age where doorways are virtual, the stanza encourages us to be cautious about the information we consume and the relationships that we build online. And people are very different online than they are in the real world, and you only have to look at the likes of Joe Rogan, Jordan B. Peterson, for example, to understand that. If you look at their channels and you listen to the media, you would be under the impression that these are some of the most hateful, far-right nut jobs that sort of take over the digital space that is the internet. But actually, in reality, once you start then researching them and listening to them and understanding them, and then listening to their comments about how 90% of the comments they get online are hateful, whereas maybe 1 in 400 comments they get in the physical world are hateful. It's a very, very different aspect to the online personas and physical personas. So look before you enter a doorway is very much a case of not just physically, but also in the digital world. Make sure you understand who you're making friends with, which groups are you getting involved with. Research them before you become an active member and start to regurgitate the messages that they are putting out there. Which also leads into sort of trust and caution. You know, the stanza highlights the balance between trust and caution. It's not about assuming the worst in every situation, but rather about maintaining a healthy level of awareness. And I would never ever suggest to anyone that you're going with a negative, cynical mind, but do approach new things with almost a skeptical mind. Take on board what's happening around you, absorb it, listen to it, and then make your decisions before jumping straight in. To wrap up, I've rambled a little bit, so I apologise for that. I tend to do that. But in essence, the Old Norse and Stoic viewpoints sort of converge in stanza 1, as they do through many of the stanzas, which you'll understand as we start to work our way through this series. But they converge in the sense that they advocate for an intentional, measured and vigilant approach to life. Not a skeptical approach to life, not a cynical approach to life, but a measured and vigilant, balanced approach to life. One of the 4 Stoic cardinal virtues is temperance, so it's about balance, it's about not leaning too far one way or the other, balance it out. But assess doorways before moving forward also resonates across cultures and eras, offering a timeless reminder to navigate the world with wisdom and discernment. So stanza 1, and I'm going to read it again because I love the fact that this is the stanza that opens up the Havamal. All doorways before going forward should be looked to, for difficult it is to know where foes may sit within a dwelling. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave me a like, subscribe. I think it'll be down there. Quite often get these wrong though, so it could be over here. And I'll post some links as well to other videos that I've done along the top at some point throughout this video. So again, thank you for listening. Hail to you. I appreciate you and everything that you do. See you on the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.